Well, welcome to this special day on the 700 Club. Finally, the U.S. is gaining ground in the fight against the coronavirus with an effective experimental drug called remdesivir. Well, what does it do, and when will it be available? Plus, the president says he won't be extending social distancing guidelines beyond today. So what does that mean for individual states? So Heather Sells is going to give us the answers.
The experimental drug remdesivir could have a profound effect on the pandemic since a vaccine for COVID-19 is at least a year away. The government announced the good news late Wednesday.
Looking forward, this is very optimistic.
Certainly it's a positive. It's a very positive event.
The California-based biotech company Gilead makes the drug. It initially developed it to treat Ebola, but now a major study shows that it helps hospitalized COVID patients recover more quickly from the disease, an average of 11 days compared to 15 for those in a control group receiving a placebo. Those on the drug also showed a trend toward fewer deaths.
The data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. It is a very important proof of concept because what it is proven is that a drug can block this virus.
The U.S. National Institutes of Health ran the study involving just over 1,000 COVID patients in 22 countries, including the U.S. Some patients are already praising the drug for speeding their recovery.
Within 48 hours, I was feeling a lot better. I think that remdesivir gave it the extra jump start or kick start or whatever I needed to kind of turn that corner.
Experts say more study is needed. They are cautiously optimistic about the drug and the government study. It has not been peer-reviewed, but is being submitted to a journal for review. The FDA says it's working with Gilead to make remdesivir available to patients as quickly as possible, as appropriate. The drug company is ramping up production and will have more than 140,000 treatment courses available by the end of May and more than 500,000 by October. The news about remdesivir comes as President Trump says that the federal government's social distancing guidelines are set to expire today. That means it's up to the states to set the standards. But that news is overshadowed by the positive news about the drug study, the best hope yet for this pandemic to slow down. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, our CBN News medical reporter, Laurie Johnston, is with us. Laurie talked about remdesivir. What exactly is this thing?
Pat, it's an antiviral medication. And so a lot of folks watching right now think, oh, I've heard that term before with Tamiflu. Tamiflu is the antiviral medication that is given to people with the flu. And this remdesivir is like it in that it blocks the replication of the viruses in the cells. We know that when we breathe in a virus or we put it in our mouth and it enters our body, then the virus penetrates our cells and then replicates over and over again. This blocks that replication. It's an antiviral. It's very exciting. I think that there are going to be more studies on remdesivir, but there are about 200 possible treatments being studied right now. These are the results of just the very first one, and we're going to be seeing a lot in the future, not just antivirals, but other ones, monoclonal antibodies. These are the drugs that can tamp down that cytokine storm, the overreaction of the immune system, and so it'll be interesting to see results from those studies. Also, we've talked before about convalescent plasma. Those study results are still pending. So this is the standard of care from now on. All future treatments are going to be compared against remdesivir or in addition to remdesivir, because we've seen with other viruses like AIDS, sometimes the best treatment is a lot of different drugs at the same time, a cocktail, if you will.
Well, how is this administered to a patient by a doctor?
It's an IV drug, so it's an IV infusion, and it usually takes 5 doses, so 1 infusion every day for 5 days. So this company that makes it, Gilead out of California, is working with the federal government and is going to get as many doses as possible to the highest risk patients in the most critical hospitals within the next month for free, but they're going to be charging after June. So we're talking about maybe 140,000 patients receiving this within the next month at various hospitals.
Well, now, what you're talking about, you've got to hook it up to an IV that will go into your blood, and that means it has to be in a hospital. You just can't take this at home. It's got to be at a hospital.
That's right. Absolutely. A doctor is not going to give you a prescription and you go to the pharmacy and get a pill. No, it's not to that level yet. It's an IV infusion. And the studies that were done on people who were hospitalized, so they were already quite ill.
All right. Well, now let me ask you about the idea of a vaccine. A vaccine will keep us from getting this. And are we any closer to getting any kind of a vaccine?
Very close. The race is on, and right now there are about 70 vaccines that have been developed, but 4 are in the lead, and the 2 main ones, one in the United States and one in China. And it's actually quite tense because the people who come up with the vaccine first not only have bragging rights, but also control production. And the last thing we want is to be dependent on China for our vaccine. One might assume that the country that develops the vaccine is going to give first priority to its own citizens. So this is something that's really very tense right now, and we're still looking at months away. One of the critical parts about a vaccine is that once it's approved, it takes many, many months to actually make enough doses that you would need. And here in the United States, talks are underway with 2 of the main drug manufacturers who it looks like these vaccines might be the ones that get approved. And we're talking about Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. And talks are underway right now to maybe start making the vaccine before it's even approved, thinking that when it is approved, there will already be a lot of doses made, so that will speed up the process.
As the FDA, are they fast-tracking this stuff, or are they going to drag their heels on it?
Both. The FDA is cutting out a lot of the red tape, but they're not cutting corners when it comes to safety. And there are some concerns that actually might be going on in China. Of course, we don't know how they're doing their safety tests in China. But as far as the red tape and fast tracking it, definitely here in the United States, people have been talking about maybe it's going to be a year till we get a vaccine. Now some folks are saying, hey, maybe some people, like first-line healthcare workers, might get it as early as this fall when we're expected to get that second wave. So, and then as we talked Monday, Pat, about some of the, Debbie Downers who are saying, hey, a vaccine's probably not going to be that effective anyway. We'll see about that. But just the fact that it's going to be a while till we get a vaccine and it's unclear how well it will work, that makes these treatments even more important. Because remember, sometimes vaccines don't work very well, as we saw with AIDS, but people who get AIDS still can live long, healthy lives because of the treatments.
Last thing, Mitch McConnell is talking about giving people a pass on legal liability if they let their employees go to work. Does that impact any of these drugs, and what do you think about all that?
I think it's a fantastic idea. Tort reform is something Republicans have been in favor of, particularly when it comes to medicine, for a long, long time, because when you have businesses or doctors who are worried about getting sued, they're going to go to extreme lengths to prevent that. For example, a lot of companies right now, a lot of businesses might be afraid of getting sued if they open and somebody in their restaurant or whatever gets COVID-19, and so they would be less likely to restart the economy if they're worried about all these lawsuits. And this is the same thing we see with doctors who order all these tests that many think are unnecessary, but they're afraid of getting sued if they don't order it. So it'll remain to be seen. The trial lawyers have a lot of influence regarding tort reform passage, and they contribute heavily to the Democratic Party.
Lori, you're right on the money. Thank you so much. Lori Johnson, our medical reporter. Well, the remdesivir study was not only good news in the fight against COVID-19, it also caused a big jump in the stock market. Our resident guru was telling us that the stock market had bottomed a few days ago, and John Jessup has more on that story.
Investors, Pat, are looking for Wednesday's rally to continue in the days ahead. Stocks exploded upward on the remdesivir news, with the Dow up more than 530 points. That rally came as the market looks forward to an economic recovery, despite that Wednesday report that the economy has been shrinking dramatically following the coronavirus lockdowns. The market, though, hit with more bad news today, as 3.8 million new jobless claims were filed, now reaching 30 million in the last 6 weeks. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell addressed the economic troubles Wednesday.
Millions of workers are losing their jobs. Overall, economic activity will likely drop at an unprecedented rate in the second quarter.
But the Fed is making it clear it will keep supporting the economy. Powell adding that the Federal Reserve, Pat, will keep its key short-term interest rate near zero.
Well, I want to say this. Maximum investing, don't fight the Fed. If the Fed is pouring money out and keeping interest rates low, the stock market's going to go up. So the stocks are moving very rapidly, and our man was saying he thinks the Dow may triple before this whole thing is over.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, Dow at 100,000 or whatever it is. I mean, it's crazy. But all things are possible. But in any event, as long as the Fed is pouring money in, the stock market is going to go up regardless of the fact people are suffering, and people are definitely suffering. Well, John, what else do you have?
Pat, turning overseas, rumors are swirling that North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is either at death's door or waiting out COVID-19. The communist dictator's absence from the public eye is leading to rife speculation about his condition following reports that he underwent a heart procedure. Any sudden political changes in the Hermit Kingdom is sure to trigger a power struggle. George Thomas brings us this look at Kim's potential successors.
When the 36-year-old dictator failed to show up 2 weeks ago to celebrate his late grandfather, rumors started flying. It was the first time ever that Kim Jong-un missed the country's most important political date. Hints of something amiss began April 20th when a leading South Korean group claimed that Kim was recovering from a cardiovascular surgical procedure. Kim is an overweight chain smoker, and he's believed to suffer from heart disease like his father and grandfather. On Monday at the White House, President Trump claimed he was aware of Kim's situation.
I can't tell you exactly. Yes, I do have a very good idea, but I can't talk about it now. I just wish him well.
Kim was last seen April 11th. 12 days later, satellite pictures showing a train likely belonging to the North Korean leader parked near one of the family's luxury compounds. South Korean intelligence reports he's staying outside the capital, perhaps in isolation due to coronavirus. But no one is sure.
North Korea is the hardest target, what the intelligence professionals call it, because it is such a closed society. And of course, Kim Jong-un's health, his location, everything about him is really a state secret.
If something were to happen to him, experts point to Kim Yo-jong, Kim's younger sister, described as one of his most trusted advisor, as a successor. The 37-year-old's political influence has grown in recent years, playing key roles in U.S.-North Korea relations and appearing alongside her brother at major events inside the isolated country, including at missile tests and riding horses.
We know from talking to defectors that she is the one person that he trusts the most inside North Korea. In March, for the first time, she issued official statements in her name. So it looks like, we can interpret that she may be in a position where she's been being groomed to succeed him.
The Kim family bloodline has ruled the Hermit Kingdom for 3 generations. All were men. As potentially the first female leader, it's unclear whether Kim Yo-jong has what it takes to rule a country highly dominated by conservative males.
The problem there is that North Korea is pretty reactionary, quite honestly, when it comes to gender norms. And so there's a lot of discussion about whether or not the old guard in North Korea would accept the ascension of a female. But she is a blood relative, and the Kim family, the sort of monarchic feudal line of the Kim family, is a central part of North Korean mythology. So she's the obvious choice, barring the gender issue.
Another name making the rounds is Kim Jong-il, the son of North Korea's founder Kim Il-sung. The 65-year-old spent nearly 4 decades serving in various foreign diplomatic posts before returning to North Korea last year. Still, any sudden changes could create a power vacuum. Experts say to avoid that, North Korea's powerful military would step in immediately, taking center stage until a leader is selected by the government. While rumors continue to circulate outside of North Korea, inside the country, it's life as usual. The streets of the capital Pyongyang teeming with people this week, many wearing masks as the country closed off its border in late January due to coronavirus. George Thomas, CBN News.
Thanks, George. Pat, back to you.
Well, I just want to know, I want everybody to know where this guy came from. Kim Il-sung was not some hero sent down from Mount Olympus by the gods. He was put in place by the Soviets, by the Russians. He was a lieutenant colonel. And in the process of taking over, they have drained that country dry. They have imposed the most rigid dictatorship. The country is starving while the ruling family lives in incredible luxury. Like you've got your own private train pulled up to your own luxury compound that's paid for by people who are starving. It's just a shocking thing. And sooner or later, God Almighty is going to move in and say, I'm going to set those people free.